Sunday night, I was listening to Chris Moore, and Chris did a great job allowing the fans to call in and share their memories of Rod Gilbert, and I have a lot of those same memories. For anybody who grew up in the 60s and 70s and was at the impressionable age of, say, 5 to 17, like I was at that time, he was one of our guys. There was Joe Namath, there was him, there was Walt and Willis, and there was just this love of hockey. And you got to remember, they were the only hockey team in town. And people always say, how are you not an Islanders fan? I say, well, this is why. It's because of him. And my dad was worked in the insurance industry, and he was like a safety engineer, and he worked for his company on Madison Square Garden. And he was, going through all the safety as they build these buildings and everything else. And his company every now and again would give him tickets to go to Ranger games. And I lived all the way out in East Islip, so the only time we could go would be like a Saturday night. So on a Saturday, we'd get on the train at Islip, and we'd go into the garden, and we'd go to these games. And maybe 4 or 5 games a year I was lucky enough to go to. And I was fascinated with the speed of the game, the passion of the fans, the red, white, and blue jerseys. And this was the first number 7 that I fell in love with. And he was a guy that not only was a great player in his time, but was an unbelievable ambassador for the game of hockey. And I listened to what Ronnie Duguay said, and all the ex-Rangers and Brad Park and all the other Ranger fans saying the same things that I'm going to say this morning. But I'll add one other thing onto it. After Gunnar was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, when I became the Jet quarterback, I went out to Vail, Colorado for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's Celebrity Ski. And I was a little bit late to the dinner because of travel and everything else. And I'm sitting at table number 7, which is odd enough as it is. And I get to table number 7, and who's sitting there? Rod Gilbert's sitting there. I'm like, Rod Gilbert, what the hell are you doing here? And he goes, oh, I don't know if you knew this, but I've been the CF ambassador for the New York chapter for like 20 years.
No kidding.
And I'm like, what? This is like crazy that here's this guy by a childhood hero who's already been in the fight against cystic fibrosis for all these years up to that point. And I didn't even know that. And obviously that was a moment that was really very powerful for me. It was very emotional for me. And then he and I would ski against each other because it would be a celebrity ski event, and we'd be doing these slalom skis, and I would always beat him. But then again, he was 20 years older than I was. And we'd always have fun with that. And then came, the celebrity skates at the Garden with the Christopher Reeve Foundation and everything else in the 2000s. And I got to see him there. And every time I went to a Ranger game, he would always find his way to my seats and come over and say hello to see how Gunnar was doing or to say hi to Gunnar and everything else. I mean, this is the kind of guy he was. So everything that you hear about Rod Gilbert from the fans who watched him and appreciated him like I did as a player, to the people who played with him, the people who worked with him over there at the Garden at the New York Rangers, and the people that generally he touched in their everyday lives, and all the money that he raised for local charities is absolutely 100% true. And it's one of the reasons why he's the iconic Ranger for all of us. They never won a Stanley Cup when he was here, but he played every year as a Ranger. He loved New York. He loved the Ranger organization. Always was rooting for the Rangers. It was just unabashed Ranger fan, Ranger love all the time. But he had respect for all the other players he played against. He was a highly respected player, and he's a New York icon. And for those of us who grew up loving hockey, it's because of him. At least for me, it was. And it's one of the reasons why I wore number 7. He and, of course, Burt Jones, who was the quarterback for the Baltimore Colts. So when I heard it Sunday night, there was a tear in my eye, and I just felt unbelievably sad because of our relationship and what we've had grown over the years and what he had done for the world of CF. And, last August it was Tom Seaver. This August it's Rod Gilbert. And I hadn't seen him because, I went to the Garden for a couple games this year. He was not around. I don't know what the cause of death was, but all I can tell you is a little piece of our childhood from my generation basically left again. And this is in conjunction with Tom Seaver. So, yeah, it was really sad. And hopefully my tweet reflected my respect for him and his kindness as a human being. And his legacy will never be forgotten, that's for sure, because it will always be hanging up in the rafters at the Garden.